As an art student, I often write on sketch paper and watercolor paper. Both of them are thick and have textures, especially the watercolor paper. They are they're quite soft as well. I don't think there will be bits of paper stuck on the nib as long as I don't use extra fine nibs. Do I have to worry about material taken from the nib too much, or is it kind of okay? Watercolor paper is interesting because I don't know as much about it personally. We've carried some watercolor paper here in the past, but usually I carry it. It kind of does okay, and then it really doesn't do well, and then I drop it, and then I carry it again, and I'm kind of just in this cycle of every year or so trying to carry watercolor paper, and then it doesn't sell that great, and then I don't have it, and we get asked about it a lot, and then we carry it again, and then it doesn't do that great, and so we just kind of get in that cycle. We don't have, you know, a lot of art supply type of products here, you know, so it's just that tends to not be something that's as popular for us for whatever reason. So I've used some watercolor papers in the past, but there's, you know, more kind of a little bit different elements to watercolor paper than there are in, say, like journals and, you know, correspondence paper. Definitely more of like a texture kind of thing, like what you're talking about. The thing with most watercolor paper, though, is it usually has a pretty heavy coating or some kind of sizing or something like that on it to be able to resist the ink or water or whatever, acrylic or whatever it is that you're putting on there. So because it's made more for like mixed media and sketching and watercolor stuff, you're often going to have more of a texture because when you're dealing with things like pencils and graphite and you know, different types of you know, things like that, chalk, it's better to have more texture. It's not like Rhodia or Clairefontaine where it's like really smooth, and that would be harder to do something like, you know, mixed media. But the paper is usually thicker, so you don't get buckling when you do this mixed media stuff on there. So that said, writing on them with fountain pens, that's not necessarily the people that are making watercolor paper, that's not necessarily their mentality is, oh, people will write on these with fountain pens. It's more, oh, they're going to be sketching with pencil or some kind of chalk or something, doing painting, acrylic, whatever. And that's what it's going to be mainly used for. So that's, I think, more what they cater to. That said, using fountain pens on them, I don't think is really a problem. Because you have that sizing, the coating on there, even with the texture, I don't think you end up in a situation where the tines are like scratching and digging up paper and getting it in there. That said, it certainly could happen. So if it does happen, and you do end up having flow issues and stuff getting paper stuck in the tines of your nib, that's where a brass sheet really helps a lot. And we sell brass sheets here at Goulet. You can also, I've had people use it, I don't recommend it quite as much, but you can use filler gauges that you use for like automobile spark plug gauges. So you can use those as well. You got to use really thin ones. I forget the exact one to use. I think it's like 0.01 millimeter, I think is the right one to use, or 0.05 maybe is the thing. I don't know. Pretty thin one. So we sell the brass sheet. That works really well because brass is soft and it'll bend. I was gonna say it's more malleable. What's the adjective of that one? Malleate. No, that's a completely wrong one. Don't pick apart my grammar. But it's more malleable than the nib that you're using it on. So, you know, you can floss your tines, get the paper and junk out of there, and continue on writing if you end up in that kind of situation.